Good morning, everyone. Happy debate day and welcome to Rising. Saagar, what are we up to?
We have an amazing show for everybody today. We have Glenn Greenwald. He's going to join us to talk a little bit about this impeachment inquiry. Of course, we got Cenk Uygur live on the ground. He's going to tell us about his congressional run and what he's seeing down in Atlanta ahead of this debate. Julia Manchester of The Hill is going to join us as well. She's going to tell us a little bit about the debate preview. And then, of course, our panel, we're going to dive into the polls and who needs to win tonight, who has the most to lose. It's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of a make or break night, so exciting one. And of course, hope you join us here live for our pre and post debate coverage. I'm going to basically try to say that in every block because I'm obsessed with it. At the same time, as that's all unfolding, we have more impeachment testimony today. Yeah. And today, I think, is probably the biggest witness, so far at least. Gordon Sondland, he's very much implicated directly in the scheme, so this isn't someone who heard someone on the phone or overheard someone or listened in on that call, on that July call. This was a guy who is alleged to have been directly involved in this scheme, and he's already had to change his testimony. He said his memory was refreshed after he gave private closed-door testimony about exactly what he knew and whether he conveyed that to the Ukrainians. So, you know, this is probably the biggest testimony that we've seen so far.
Yeah, this is certainly the biggest testimony that we have. So Gordon Sondland, he was the ambassador to the European Union.
Right. Trump donor.
Actually, Trump donor. I mean, look, all these ambassadors are donors.
Yeah.
No matter what administration.
Sure. I mean, part of the weirdness with him is that he was the ambassador to the EU, but then got pulled into this Ukrainian thing, which is part of what's a little strange.
That's part of the issue here is that what it is that the EU actually negotiates a lot of the military aid with Ukraine. That's actually part of what the whole thing was about. If you look actually in the original transcript, Trump was upset that the Germans and all these other people aren't paying enough to the Ukraine.
Right.
But that's another matter. Basically, he had direct communications with the president, allegedly about this Ukraine Burisma investigation, was overheard by that aide whose transcript that we got yesterday that came out that said that he heard him talking to the president saying, yes, they've committed themselves to the investigations. The real question is if he's going to implicate the president in anything criminal, or if he's going to discuss this in terms beyond what he's already laid out, which is he can confirm the phone call, but he's basically probably going to say, like, look, these weren't investigations into Burisma or Biden himself. This was a corruption investigation that we and everybody in the State Department wanted to push. So we don't know what tack he's going to take here, but he's going to take a lot of criticism from the Democrats up there and take quite a bit of hostile questioning. The current reporting indicates, you know, we generally know if these guys are about to flip or implicate. That doesn't seem to be the case. He says he's going to tell the truth. Let's see what happens.
We'll see. Whereas yesterday, some of these witnesses yesterday were folks that the Republicans had actually asked for, and their testimony did not really help the president's case. But I think it's important always to keep the sort of broader context in mind. And there's some new polling that indicates that even as Democrats feel like this is all going very well for them in all of the sort of like details of exactly who called who and when and all of that, and you know, the president's defense is being sort of broken down. Even while that is going on, we've got new polling that reflects the fact that independents are starting to move against impeachment, which is, of course, what we've been predicting here all along. Look, I don't think, from my perspective, I don't think there's a lot of doubt that what the president was doing here was not on the up and up. You could debate whether it was like as direct as Democrats are saying or not, but, you know, this was not a great thing for him to be engaged in and is not a good look. However, do Americans, do independents, do people who are persuadable, which is a tiny percentage of the public, think that this is big enough of an issue for us to spend weeks and weeks and weeks on hearing testimony, getting into the nitty-gritty details? This poll is the first indication that we've seen that maybe not.
Well, of course not, because what? 3 months of House floor time will have been taken up by impeachment. Then after, by the way, in which a trade agreement, which was negotiated, may not be brought to the floor. And then
that was probably not happening
6 weeks to an 8-week trial in the United States Senate, which will require every sitting senator 6 days a week to be sitting there hearing testimony during the most critical phase of the Democratic primary. I mean, who are you hurting here? You're hurting Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth. I mean, I say it every time we talk about impeachment, but that's because it is a zero-sum game. That's how Washington floor time works. Like, you cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. Not a single piece of major legislation has moved through the House. And if that's not going to happen, then they should at least be focused on the campaign, right?
Yeah.
But this is hurting the campaign.
Look, nothing was going to happen in the House anyway. Let's not live in a fantasy land about that. But when you think about the media coverage, I mean, this is wall to wall. Of course, it's wall to wall. It should be wall to wall, right? With what they care about, what they fixated on. It has to be. An impeachment inquiry is a historic thing, whether you agree with it or not. And so, yeah, you've taken the public's focus off of healthcare, off of climate change, off of minimum wage. And actually, they're still focused on it. You're just not talking about it. And Democrats aren't able to make their case for what they would do. And of course, the ultimate disaster of while the primaries and caucuses are going on, they'll be stuck in Washington. So that's where we are.
Not great.
Tell you what's on our radars next.